Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Shannon and this is Shannon's Book Nook. And today we're going to be talking about all the books that I read in the month of April. So let's get into it. Start with some stats. So in the month of April, I read a total of 10 books, which this month has been crazy. We had state testing. I'm a teacher and I've gone on several interviews. So this month has been jam-packed. So 10, I'll take it because that's the most I've read in a couple months. So I did not read any physical books, but I read 2 ebooks, listened to 2 audiobooks, and then I had 6 mixed media, which just means that I read with my eyes and listened with my ears. Most of the time I would go back and forth. Sometimes I would do them together. It just depended. So 6 books where I listened and read at the same time. I had 1 ARC. I didn't do so well on my ARCs this month, and I am very behind, so I need to do better in May. I had 1 DNF, which we will talk about shortly. I read 3,502 pages, listened to 88 hours and 42 seconds of audiobooks, which is crazy. My average rating was 3.9, and my most read genre was romance, of course. And as far as like the breakdown in representation, which representation can mean a lot of things. So we have Black, Indigenous, Asian, all the races. Then we also have mental health rep, LGBTQIA, plus size, all of the things, disabilities. So out of the 10 books that I read, 4 of them had some kind of representation. Then to keep track of my goals, I have a 25 and 2025, and I've added 2. So now that makes 11 out of the 25 books that I wanted to read in 2025 have actually been read. So we're on the right track. And then as far as my yearly goal, I wanted to read 100 books, which is significantly less than what I have done in the past. But this is good because there's a lot of things happening in my life right now. So 100 seemed reasonable. So out of 100 books, I have read 44 books. So those are the stats for the month of April. Let's get into what I actually read. Before I talk about my DNF, I did want to talk about, if you watched my TBR video, there were 3 books that I did not get to this month, and those books that I did not get to are Two Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillick, which is the second book in the duology for the Shepherd's King series, or duology. Then I also didn't get to Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver, which is another second book in a series. And then I also didn't get to Filthy Rich Vampire for Eternity, which is the 4th and final book in the Filthy Rich Vampire series by Geneva Lee. So I didn't do so hot there, but it is what it is. When I make a TBR, I sometimes stick to it and I sometimes don't. And a lot of times Libby book holds will come in and kind of just throws my TBR out the window because I have to read them in a certain time frame or I don't get access to the book anymore. So let's talk about the DNF. It was Daddy Sized by Margot Scott. And this is disappointing, but also I'm not really surprised. I kind of knew that this was probably going to not work for me. This book is a bundle of 4 novellas, and it's all about like innocent, young, inexperienced girls with older men. And I love an age gap, but this just did not work for me. It didn't. There were some things being said. And I loved that they were big girls because also, or, you know, most of the main female characters, I only read 2 of the novellas, but both of them were plus sized. So I do love that. But this book did not work for me. There were some things, the pet names were cringe. I couldn't get into it, and I need more substance to my stories now, especially my romances. If I had read this back like maybe 3-4 years ago, I probably would have loved it. But because I need more to the story to keep my attention, and not just, if that's what works for you, that's what works for you. And it used to work for me, but it doesn't anymore. So I will be unhauling this book. It is a signed edition, so I'll probably end up putting it in my Pango shop for sale. So if you're interested, keep a lookout. So the first book that I read, actually it was an audiobook that I listened to, and that is When in Rome by Sarah Adams. And I loved this book so much. It was very cute. It's a feel-good romance. We have Amelia, who is a famous singer, and she needs a break. She just has been running herself ragged. And she decides to take a little break in Rome, Kentucky, where she ends up meeting Noah, who is a pie shop owner. And these two have some chemistry. It's a small town. Everybody knows everybody. And this book was just so cute. And I gave it 4 stars. The next book I read was Play Along by T.L. Swan. This was a book club pick, and it is a dark romance. I gave it 3 stars. This one is a wild, crazy time. Let me tell you. Okay, so there were lots of twists and turns. Some are fairly predictable, but some I was just like, what just happened? Where did that come from? So we have Rochelle, who goes to a club and sees her boyfriend making out with her best friend. And she hauls butt out of there. And when she goes crying out the door, out the back alley door, she sees something she should not have seen. And ends up getting taken by this group of men, dangerous men. And Mac is in that group of men. And so this is just a very wild ride of a time. So I gave it 3 stars. Then I read The Most Perfect Book. I might include the clip here after I talk about this book. When I had just finished this book and I was sobbing. Okay, I might include it. I may not. It just depends. But this was the easiest 5 stars I have given all year. Could easily be a 6-star book, to be quite honest. And that is The Women by Kristen Hanna. It is one of my favorite reads of 2025 so far. This book, it's going to be hard pressed to be beaten by anything. So this is a historical fiction, and it is about the women who served in the military in Vietnam and the horrible, horrible treatment of the veterans, especially the women when they came back from experiencing the trauma that they experienced. And I'm already getting emotional just talking about it, so I'm gonna stop now. But this book was amazing, so freaking good. If you have not read it, I highly recommend reading it, because just wow. And you can tell Kristen Hanna did so much research and gosh, she put everything in this book. Loved it so much. I just finished this and I'm not okay. 5 stars, easiest 5 stars I've given all year. And easily one of my favorite reads of 2025 so far. If you haven't read this book, you need to. It's about the women who served in Vietnam and who were constantly told when they came home there were no women in Vietnam. So then the 4th book that I read was All In by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, which is the third book in the series for The Naturals. And this is a Criminal Minds-esque series. It is YA. And this book does get a little bit darker, but we're following Cassie Hobbs, who is a part of the Naturals group, which is a group of FBI young adults. They are being trained to work in the FBI. And there have been a string of murders that have happened at Las Vegas casinos. And they've been called in to figure out who's doing it and to stop it. So this was so good. I cannot wait to get into the last book of this series and find out what the heck is going on, because I am so confused about where this is headed. Wow. Book number 5 was Killers of a Certain Age by Deanna Raybourn. This book was a fun time. We do have older ladies who were at it in middle age. They were trained to be assassins, and they are retiring. They are going to enjoy the rest of their time because they are older, and they have given 40 years to the institute called the Museum, and it is a group of elite network of assassins. And so our 4 ladies, which are Billy, Mary Alice, Helen, and Natalie, and they are they're a handful for sure, but this is an easy read. It was a fun read. I gave it 3.5 stars, and I do look forward to reading the second book in this because this second book, the sequel, just came out. I didn't know it was going to be a series. I don't know if anybody knew it was going to be a series, but apparently a second book has come out. So I'm excited to read and find out what happens next. All right, so book number 6, I read Check and Mate by Ali Hazelwood. And this, I was not expecting to love this as much as I did. This was the other audiobook that I listened to. I do not have a physical copy of this book, but we have Mallory and Nolan, who are both very good chess players, and they kind of go around the country, they go around the world to participate in these chess competitions. But Mallory is really good, but she doesn't have the same level of experience as Nolan does, because something pretty traumatic happens to Mallory when she's younger, kind of getting her feet wet into the chess world. And so she stops playing for a few years and kind of gets pulled and roped back in when her family needs the money. So Nolan and Mallory's chemistry and the relationship, the way they kind of push at each other and pull at each other, super cute. And there were some things that happened towards the end that I didn't like. I didn't like how Mallory was handling some things. I thought it was kind of childish, which, you know, kind of makes sense thinking about her age. And I did not like her sister. Her sister was not great. Didn't like her at all. And there was like a little bit of a redemption arc there, but not enough to win me over. And yeah, there were just some things towards the end that I didn't like. So I ended up giving this 4 stars. So I just filmed this whole clip and I totally did not hold the book up. So I'm filming it again. So book number 7 was Slaying the Shadow Prince by Helen Shoira. This is actually a prequel to the Legends of Thesmar. We learn about Drew and we learn more about Talamir. And Talamir will sound familiar from the Legends of Thesmar series because he is Hawthorne's mentor. And so we find out more about what happened before not Warwick, he's from the Shadowlands series. Get out of my head. Hawthorne. We learn more about Hawthorne's mentor and the stuff that's kind of going on with him. So stuff from Vows and Ruins ends up making more sense after this book. So the reading order that was recommended to me was read Blood and Steel, then Vows and Ruins, and then read Slaying the Shadow Prince, which now makes sense. Reading this before you go into book 3 is probably going to be super helpful because you need to know some of the backstory that goes on between Drew and Talamir. And so I loved this book, gave it 4 stars, highly recommend reading this series. It's so much fun. All right, book number 8 was A Reign of Rose by Kate Golden. This is book 3 in the Sacred Stone series. This is the conclusion to Cain and Arwen's story. And I gotta say, I was a smidge disappointed, and I can't quite wrap my finger around why I was disappointed. There was just something missing for me. And I feel like maybe this story wrapped up a little too neatly. I mean, there's a war going on, right? And we expect people to not make it. Yeah, I don't know, maybe that's what it was. It just wrapped up a little too cleanly, but I gave this 3.5 stars. I am glad I read this series. It's a lot of fun. A Dawn of Onyx was definitely my favorite, and I probably would have loved the trilogy more if I had read them back to back to back, but I read A Dawn of Onyx, and then there was a really big break from A Dawn of Onyx to A Promise of Peridot, and then I tried to read this one quickly off the back of Promise of Peridot to keep that from happening again. So yeah, I'm glad I read it, but I'm a little disappointed by the conclusion. All right, book number 9. I read Run by Blake Crouch. This was a NetGalley arc that I got last year. I don't even remember when last year, but it took me a while to get to it. And this is a crazy book, okay? It's post-apocalyptic, and we have Jack and Dee, who are a married couple, and they have a daughter who's, I think, 13 or 14. She's a teenager, and then a son named, I think, Colt. I can't remember his name, though, if I'm being quite honest. So, son and daughter. At the beginning of the book, the wife is having an affair, and something has happened because the man that she's having an affair with is saying some pretty off-the-wall things. And some things start to happen, and we find out that there is some kind of event, a virus or something that has affected a certain group of people, a large group of people in the continental US, and it's only happening in the continental US. It is very strange, and the rest of the world is like, what is happening? And whatever it is causing people to be extremely violent. They are going on rampages, they are killing, they are looting, they are R-wording. It is absolute mayhem and chaos, and millions of people are dead by the end. So this book follows Jack and Dee over the course of the book, which I think is like, I don't even remember how long it took them, but they're trying to get from New Mexico, I think is where they started, to Canada, because there are like refugee camps and people helping north of the border. So they're trying to get to Canada, and this book basically follows them on their journey trying to get there safely. It is a crazy, wild ride, and in some ways I would not call this a thriller. I might even call it a horror, because it is terrifying. Right. And the last book I read was Keeping 13 by Chloe Walsh. Okay, guys, look, I struggled with Binding 13. I gave it 3 stars last month, and at the end of the book, some crazy stuff went down, and I immediately, at the beginning of April, end of March, I picked up Keeping 13. It took me all month to read Keeping 13, okay? I am not a person who takes that long to read a book. So there were how do I put into words what I'm feeling? Okay, these books are they're very long, and there's a lot of character stuff going on. So, but there's also some plot. So it's a mix of the two, but sometimes the stuff that's going on, I just feel like it's in there to just be in there. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's too long. It's too long. But I love Johnny and Shannon. And this book broke me. I literally just finished it yesterday, and I sobbed. I cried. Johnny Kavanaugh's family, his parents, his mom and his dad, I wish they were real. I wish they were real people, because I would love to know them. They are just so charming, so sweet, so loving, so caring. Oh my gosh, I love them so much. And then Shannon's family is just so traumatized by her dad and the lack of support or whatever it is that's got her mom so broken down by that jerk of a man. Her family is just so broken. And these books are so dark, and it broke my heart. And everything that happened in this book with just, I don't know. I have a love-hate relationship with these 2 books, but I gave Keeping 13 4 stars because it did break me in the end. And I just might decide to read the rest of the series. Maybe. All right, guys, there you have it. Those are the 10 books that I read in the month of April. Thanks so much for sticking around. If you stuck around for this long, don't forget to like the video if you liked it, and subscribe if you want to. And if you want to let me know that you were here down in the comments, let me know what your favorite read of April was, and I will see you next time. Bye.